What's up guys, Justin here for S&S Archery, and today's gear video we're going to be taking a look at the Wiser Precision NightHawk PH-170 panhead. If you know anything about S&S Archery, if you've been on our site within the last couple years, pretty much we've only been selling the Suray VA5 video head. It's been our favorite and we really haven't found anything quite like it, so we definitely felt the need to carry a lighter setup, something that we really trust in that's going to work, and we found it within the Wiser Precision. So taking a look at the Wiser Precision panhead, as you can see, very small, coming in at about 7 inches in length, about 3 inches tall, 3 inches wide. The best thing about this, comes in at 6.1 ounces with the handle. That is remarkable when you're trying to cut down on weight. You just can't beat this setup. It's pretty phenomenal for being able to glass off of a tripod. If you wanted to remove the handle, you can do that. It is provided. You're going to get this knob here, which is going to take place of the carbon handle itself, and that's going to drop down the weight to 4.9 ounces. But this already is perfect. I really like this setup. For me, leaving the handle on is just the way I'm going to run this. All machined aluminum. You have stainless steel components. As far as the internal parts, these are all sealed, so you're not going to get any dust, any debris in this drive system. So it's very smooth and it's going to stay smooth. The Wiser Precision panhead has individual axis adjustment. So for your tilt, this is going to be controlled through the handle of this. You're going to unloosen it basically to move it up and down. As you increase the tension, this is going to make it more stiff to move up and down. As far as your panning left and right, that's going to be controlled here on the side by this knob. Going to loosen it or tighten it to make it pan. So the same thing goes with this. If you increase the tension on it, it's going to stiffen up on you. But overall, you're getting a very smooth motion. And as far as locking, it does a great job. The heavier the setup, so if you're going to run a heavy spotting scope on it, you really got to crank down on these knobs, but it will hold in place. So binos, that 55 Koa that we run, it's going to lock in a much easier than the heavy spotters. Taking a look at the top, the connection point, this is Arca-Swiss compatible. So we love that. Anytime we can run all these plates the same, whether we're using a Suray plate, the TA SLC, any adapter basically that's Arca-Swiss, it just speeds up the process, makes it super nice. So we love that about this. It is basically an open jaw style. So there is no safety button, no clicking. You're just gonna basically put in your plate, whatever you're running, and lock it down. So a fast, simple process. When you purchase the panhead, you are going to get a Arca-Swiss compatible plate that works directly with the tripod. Just note that this 1/4x20 thread doesn't have any O-ring, nothing to hold it in place, so be cautious. You don't want to lose this little screw. If this is the plate you're going to run, it will just fall right out. As far as the connection point to the tripod itself, this is a 3/8 by 16 thread, so this is going to fit on pretty much all of your tripods. Pretty standard connection point that we see. So getting into the testing portion of this, I had a great opportunity to run this quite a bit, and from what I found, for being able to cut down that much weight, it does a really good job, especially if you're going to run binoculars or a lightweight spotting scope. The friction on this, where it wants to hold, pretty remarkable on what it can do as far as being so small. I found that it definitely works way better being lighter up top. I did run an 85mm spotting scope on it. It does work, don't get me wrong, but it's not something that's I don't think it's gonna compete or compare to the VA5. It's simply, it's just built differently, and it's gonna hold much smaller weights. So just think about it. If you're gonna be running the big heavy spotters, just a couple times, not very frequent, then this is definitely an awesome setup because you can cut down on so much weight. Primarily if you're just using binoculars or a small spotting scope, this is going to be perfect. But if you're a guy that is running a lot of glass all day long, heavy spotters, maybe look at the VA5 over this one. Being that the handle is so short, you can actually glass with binos and have the handle facing towards you, which is nice. Most handles are going to be, a lot longer. That's going to make it to where you have to have that handle out the front. It is convenient to be able to do it both ways. Just note that you can't change the angle of this carbon rod here, so you can't angle it down left or right, up, down. So it's just going to be straight out of the unit itself. So getting into a couple things that I caught that I didn't really care for on this particular pan head. A couple things here. So if you're going to remove this handle and use the smaller knob to be able to run that 4.9 ounces, because it's such a close and small item, the knob itself wants to hit basically the internal parts. So for me, making the adjustments on this was really hard to get it tight, plus it was hitting the top of the tripod. So for me, I'm just gonna run it with the handle. It's small enough, it's convenient enough, and that's the way I'll just run it. So another thing that caught my eye when I was doing all the testing was you do have a little bit of spring back in the panning. So as you can see there, it just wants to creep back just ever so slightly. It's not a huge thing, especially if you're running a pair of binoculars with a large field of view. That slight move back is not gonna hurt you. But if you were to be at 60x, a lot of zoom, small field of view, you're definitely gonna move off that target or where you initially want that to be. So that's just something to consider. It's not perfect, but it still, does a pretty good job. And lastly, what I found, because the actual base of the pan head is so small relative to the size of our tripod here, the Slick 624, you run into a conflict with the handle hitting the top of the tripod. So if you're doing some glassing up some super steep angles, you're gonna have to lengthen and position your glass up even higher than you would normally. Just one thing you're gonna have to deal with, but really those are minor when you consider, the construction of this. It's rock solid, it's lightweight, you really just can't complain. USA made, just a phenomenal product in front of me. Ultimately, I think this is going to be perfect for guys, wanting to cut down on weight. You hook it up with the 624 by Slick. It's extremely light, or probably under 2.5 pounds. And for such a bomb-proof, steady setup, you really can't go wrong. They are a little bit more expensive, but that's the cost of cutting down on weight. When you start looking at sleeping bags or tents or whatever it may be, the lighter it is, usually the more money. So if you guys have any questions about the Wiser Precision NightHawk or anything else in the store that we carry, please feel free to give us a call, shoot us an email, we'd be glad to help. And if you guys have found this video useful in any way or have liked it, please hit subscribe to continue to follow us on more gear reviews and how-to videos. Thanks for watching.